Every day, thousands of Comcast engineers and technologists like Kunle put people at the heart of everything they create.
The way that I approach work post-fatherhood has really been trying to understand the generation that we're building devices for. Here at the Comcast family, we're building an integrated in-home Wi-Fi solution for millions of families like my own.
Now millions of families can work, learn, and play together under one roof. Visit ComcastCorporation.com to learn more.
HBCUs, they're more than just schools, right? They're where we learn, grow, and build. It's a place where we're free to be ourselves, innovate, and live our best lives while chasing those dreams, and yes, securing that bag. But the journey to success is not always easy. That's why Walmart is here for you every step of the way. From late night study sessions to game day celebration, Walmart's got your back, helping you manifest those big, audacious dreams. Whether you're starting a business, climbing the career ladder, or figuring it all out, Walmart is here supporting Black excellence at HBCUs. At the end of the day, your hustle, your creativity, and your journey matter. Walmart, we're all about empowering you with the spark to keep pushing forward. So let's get to it together. Learn more about how we are amplifying your story at walmart.com/Black and Unlimited. It's your journey, and we're proud to be a part of it.
Hey there, listeners. Welcome to Shit That Goes On to Our Heads, the podcast where we normalize conversations around mental health.
That's right. I'm Dirty Skittles, and alongside my amazing co-host, Rex, we are here to share stories and tips from our incredible guests.
Each episode, we deep dive into struggles and triumphs of mental health, offering practical advice and heartfelt support.
Because no one should feel alone in their journey. Join us as we break the stigma and build a community of understanding and compassion.
Tune in and let's start talking about the shit that goes on in our heads. 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to another episode of Shit That Goes On in Our Heads. And today we have our amazing guest, Asha. Welcome, Asha. How are you today?
Thank you. I'm doing great. How are you?
We are fantastic. It is a fall morning up here. I woke up to 38. Ooh, look, it's a whole 10 degrees warmer now.
Yeah, I don't know what the temp is outside here, but it is fall. The leaves are changing color. We discovered we have a pumpkin vine growing. I don't know how that happened. But we have one. So I'm really excited about that. And I got to feed my crows. That's what I did this morning. How was your morning, Asha?
It's been a slow morning. I think I got out of bed right before this call.
Nice.
late night, late morning.
Oh, well, hopefully a good late night.
Yeah, just hanging with friends. It was good.
Oh, that's nice. Where are you located?
I'm in New York.
Okay. So Eastern. Got it.
Yeah.
Nice. Did you do anything fun? Like, do you guys do game nights or just hang out?
Yeah, normally we try to get together with friends over food, but last night it was friends in town for one of their daughter's birthdays. And so it was a bar meetup after another party bar meetup. It was a lot. More than I'm used to.
Nice. I love that.
But it was good. It was good times.
I love that. And you're not far from me. You're in the city, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're about 4 hours from us.
Okay.
But, like when we come to the city now, we fly because I don't want to drive. It's a 38-minute flight. We fly into Newark and then just Uber into the city. I don't want to drive down, like especially in the winter, but we'll be in the city in December for a couple of days because that's how I get my inner kid going. Because I like to go see the tree. Get to go see the pretty lights. I get to go, eat out because I live in the farm country and like we don't have a really good selection of restaurants here, but I go to the city to eat.
I think people come into play for many reasons. They have the annual tree lighting will be happening in about a month. So when you get here, it'll be a lot of visitors, a lot of tourists in, December. So yeah, it's going to be a busy season very soon.
It's so pretty. It's like an annual trip that we've done every year since we moved up here. So this will be our 4th year of doing it. So I'm excited.
Yeah, cool. 38-minute flight. That's awesome.
Yeah. How long of a drive is it, out of curiosity?
It's a 4-hour drive, but if it's snowing, it's like a 6-hour drive. Yeah. So I don't want to do it Okay. Because I will spend the $300 to get on a plane and fly into the city. So
look at that.
Yeah. Yeah. I will take 38 minutes over 4 hours in a day.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah.
More time to enjoy, you know?
Yeah.
yeah. And, Uber loves us. So it's all good.
Yeah, that's true. I was like, wait, you Uber? And then I'm like, yeah, I guess that makes sense. I've never been to New York City, so I don't know. I've never been.
Where are you located?
I'm in Georgia.
What part?
Marietta.
Okay, yeah, I go to Georgia every now and again. We have family in Decatur and Lithonia.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Nice.
Maybe I'll have to make my way to New York City and see tree lighting. That sounds nice. Is the whole city all like lights and decorated?
Oh my God.
Yes,
beautiful.
Big and beautiful. I mean, come anytime. New York always has something going on. I always tell people the next best time to come to New York is in the summer. New York has the best summer events. Yeah, free Shakespeare in the Park, live concerts with legendary artists, jazz festivals, food festivals from around the world. Like, it's the best time also to come into New York. Summers in New York are the greatest.
Very cool.
And Nugget would love the Bronx Zoo. Love.
Okay. Yeah. We'll
Okay,
have to put it on the books.
Yeah, I'm gonna figure that out for you. Okay? I'm just gonna become your next travel agent.
There you go. So, Asha, did you grow up in New York?
So I actually grew up in New York and Maryland. I was actually thinking about that when G-Rex was talking. It's about a 4-hour trip from where I live to Maryland, where my mom is. So I went to school. I went to private school in Maryland. Then I came back home to New York to start college.
Very good. What did you go to college for?
Initially, I went to college to study human services, and I wanted to, before that, become a registered nurse. So I was actually accepted into Pace University's nursing program. And then about 2 years in, I changed my major to human services, and I graduated, with my incoming class, and got my degree in human services. And then I proceeded to go to graduate school for social work at Fordham University. And I just kept on going. I went back and got a certificate in psychoanalysis. I'm not sure how many people who listen to your show know about psychoanalysis, but after graduating with my social work degree and getting my master's in that, I took a tiny break, and then I went back and got the object relations certificate in psychoanalytic psychoanalysis. And just kept going and going. And now I have a certificate in spiritual and life coaching. And so I do a lot of life coaching work in addition to psychotherapy in my private practice.
Now, I love your LinkedIn posts. I follow you all the time. You make my heart smile. So I just wanted to say you're doing good work.
Thank you so much. Same here.
I need to follow you on LinkedIn. I'm missing out, man.
Yeah. G-Rex posts some great information, all the great awards you guys have been getting, and same here. My hat's off to you too.
It's kind of surreal. It's very humbling, but very surreal at the same time. So,
you guys have gotten a ton of awards in a short amount of time. Like a lot of exposure. It's really amazing.
In 30 days, we won two awards. We won the People's Choice Podcast Awards for Best Health Podcast. And then a week ago, we won the Women in Podcasting Best Mental Health Podcast for 2024. Wow. And if you'd asked us if this was in our wheelhouse, never, because we started the podcast kind of as a joke.
Mm-hmm. Totally as a joke. I still don't think people are listening. I don't know what's happening. Protecting myself. Denying anything is going on.
What was the joke?
It was just so the podcast came out of a really dark place for me. So I had my own mental health breakdown on Christmas Day of 2022, and I called Dirty Skittles like every day after that happened. And at the time, she was my manager. I use that term so loosely because I retired like 3 months later, 4 months later.
Yeah, if that. Mm-hmm.
And we would just talk about the most irreverent stuff. And so one day she called me and we were laughing about something for like 40 minutes. And she's like, hey, let's do a podcast. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. And that was literally a month to the date that we dropped our first episode. And that was on February 14th, 2023. And I chose that day because in 1997, I buried my mom on Valentine's Day, and I really hated that day. And so I wanted to change the trajectory of the day. And as I was going through my own healing, I thought, man, this is going to be great. So within like 2 months of us going live, we had 10,000 downloads.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And now we are about 180,000 downloads from 1 million downloads.
Wild.
And that's just last year you started.
Yep.
Yeah. It's crazy.
And listened to in over 60 countries. So, our mission has always been to change those conversations around mental health and, open up people's eyes and ears to what's going on around them and giving voice to people's stories that don't often get told, but will help somebody else that's going through something similar.
Well, obviously it's resonating with people. Congratulations.
It's crazy. It's the craziest thing ever. We laugh about it now, but for me, it's changed the way that I look at life. And we use these recordings because it's free therapy for us too. Mm-hmm. I mean, I still go to therapy at least once a month, sometimes twice, but we now have 90 new friends that we never knew we would have. Mm-hmm. I have more self-help books than I ever thought I would have. And I'm about half a chapter away from finishing my book. So it's great. And I get to do this with my best friend.
So, yeah, it's been wild. It's been a wild ride, but I don't know. It's helpful sometimes, I think, just to talk about what you're going through and to hear that you're not alone. So, some of our stories are resonating with people who were like, oh, I never been able to put words to that feeling or that emotion. And now hearing somebody else in a similar story or even just completely different, but similar emotions, I think is what resonates the most with everyone.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. Congratulations again. This is awesome.
Thanks. So back to you, Asha. My curiosity, this is, I think, part of how this podcast became the joke that it is, because I'm just a curious natured person. So you mentioned your schooling. Were you always, because you started off going into nursing and then at some point you made a change. What caused that change to occur? What was it about what you were doing that you wanted to change and go into another direction?
It was pretty simple. I was overworking and getting results I wasn't happy with. I wasn't satisfied with how everything was unfolding. I was what we would now call at that time a high achieving student. And I was used to not necessarily having to excel very hard to do really well in school. And I found myself having to study all day, after classes, in the evening, with study groups, late at night, and was just barely passing my classes and my exams. In nursing, people underestimate nurses. We put a lot of emphasis on doctors and their care, but nurses do just about as much of the work and know as much information as MDs. And those clinicals are really difficult. And I had already made it into what we call your practicum. So I was already in a nursing home doing treatment with clients. And it was a lot of work that I thought I would enjoy more than I did. And I wasn't the only person. We were a class of a lot of miserable students that were really unhappy with just the program. Not to say that Pace University's nursing program didn't put a lot of emphasis on producing great students, because they do have a stellar program for nursing, but it was just really challenging, and we had really challenging patients. And you think, if you go back to that time, we were 19 and 20 years old. We were super young, doing hands-on care and then studying about the body and, doing physiology. And that was just one segment of our work. We still had all of the other classes that were not related to nursing, our core classes that we still had to do well in. And I was very unsatisfied. Thankfully, my parents were very supportive. I didn't know that they would support this idea, because Pace University is not a cheap college. The institution, has a lot to offer, but it costs quite a bit as well to stay there. And my parents were like, listen, if you're not happy, do something else. And I was really impressed and in awe, to say the least, of that response. And thankfully, I had a really good friend who was already in the human services program. She raved about the professor who was also the guidance, not the guidance counselor, but I can't think of the term right now, but the person who runs the department. And she said, I think you should just take a class or two and see how it goes. I did that. I passed with flying colors. It was super easy, and all of my core classes transferred over, and I became a human services student. And that was probably the best path for me. And it wasn't that different. It's still in the helping industry, a lot less pay. As a social worker, it's different now as a therapist, but, going into social work never had me think about, what the trajectory would be for my life moving forward. I just thought it was interesting, and it tied some of my other courses into what I was doing. I learned a lot really quickly. It was very applicable. I love the study of people, so it fit my personality, and I stuck with it and just kept going. And as I got into the field and started doing other kinds of self-discovery work, I got into psychoanalysis myself, and I started meeting some really interesting people who were seasoned clinicians, started talking to them about clinical work as a private practitioner and found that fascinating and set my eyes on that. And then I actually started my private practice 10 years ago as a consultant while I was still working, for someone else's company. Mm-hmm. But 8 years ago, I went into full-time self-employment within my business.
Wow.
This episode brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever find yourself playing the budgeting game? Shifting a little money here, a little there, and hoping it all works out? Well, with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive, you can get a better budgeter and potentially lower your insurance bill too. You tell Progressive what you want to pay for car insurance, and they'll help find you options within your budget. Try it today at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states.
Getting engaged can be stressful. Getting the right ring won't be at BlueNile.com. The jewelers at BlueNile.com have sparkle down to a science with beautiful lab-grown diamonds worthy of your most brilliant moments. Their lab-grown diamonds are independently graded and guaranteed identical to natural diamonds and ready to ship to your door. Get $50 off your purchase of $500 or more with code POD at BlueNile.com. That's BlueNile.com, code POD for $50 off.
Every day, thousands of Comcast engineers and technologists like Kunle put people at the heart of everything they create.
The way that I approach work post-fatherhood has really been trying to understand the generation that we're building devices for. Here at the Comcast family, we're building an integrated in-home Wi-Fi solution for millions of families like my own.
Now millions of families can work, learn, and play together under one roof. Visit ComcastCorporation.com to learn more.
HBCUs, they're more than just schools, right? They're where we learn, grow, and build. It's a place where we're free to be ourselves, innovate, and live our best lives while chasing those dreams, and yes, securing that bag. But the journey to success is not always easy. That's why Walmart is here for you every step of the way. From late night study sessions to game day celebration, Walmart's got your back, helping you manifest those big, audacious dreams. Whether you're starting a business, climbing the career ladder, or figuring it all out, Walmart is here supporting Black excellence at HBCUs. At the end of the day, your hustle, your creativity, and your journey matter. Walmart, we're all about empowering you with the spark to keep pushing forward. So let's get to it together. Learn more about how we are amplifying your story at walmart.com/Black and Unlimited. It's your journey, and we're proud to be a part of it.
How long were you in social work for?
4 years. So I had a 3-year program, but I graduated in 2004, but I started the program in 2000. So I walked on February 1st of 2004 was the actual official graduation date. But I went to Fordham University from 2000 to 2003 and did it part-time in the beginning while I worked in the field. And then the last year I went full-time.
And I know nothing of this stuff, so I'm sorry if this is a silly question, but is that a normal path for folks that are in social work to go into like a psychoanalysis type role?
No, not necessarily. It's generally encouraged that you do get your master's because in order to be a clinician, you have to have a license, which means you need your undergraduate, your master's degree, and then a license. But I think at the time that I was in school, I was in a very interesting time of life when social work was evolving. So when I was in school for human services in the 90s, in the late 90s, I didn't know any social workers. I only started knowing social workers when I entered graduate school. Then I met people from different universities and institutions that were nearby. And there were a lot of older students that were in class with me. I was, super young. I was in my early 20s entering grad school. And I was in school with people who were working professionals in their 30s, 40s, and up. And people were in advanced programs. So people like colleagues, let's say, that I would work with in the future were going to their jobs Monday through Friday and then going to school all day on Saturday, but using their job as well for their clinical hours so that they could graduate within 2 years. And that fast track, as they call it, would get you your certificate within 2 years. And then you could sit for your licensure exam before you graduated. Actually, that last semester before you received your diploma, you could sit for the licensure exam and come out with your diploma and your license at the same time. I happened to be in the graduate program my second year when the governor of New York terminated the policy for people to do both because people were actually graduating, or they, let's say, were walking during their ceremony without their diploma and passing the licensure exam. And you cannot have a license without your diploma. So there were all of these graduating, quote unquote, classmates that were not doing well. And some people had to actually take the exam more than once, but there were many people who became licensed without a master's degree. So the governor of New York at that time said, I think it was 2002 would be the last graduating class that could do that. And so you absolutely had to complete a number of hours. And at that time, it was about 60 credits in classwork and 3,000 touch hours with client. And so that was a lot of time. It's since decreased to about 2,500 or 2,000 hours now. And so I finished my program in about 3 years because I went part-time the first year to year and a half, and then full-time the last year or two. So that was a little bit of an easier route for me to take while I worked in the field and took my time and went to class on Saturday. So that's how I got my degree. But people usually would do it at the same time that they worked full-time, which is...
That's hard. I got my master's working full time, and it was hard. It was really hard. It took a lot out of me, but I'm glad I had it. Do I use it? Probably not as much as I could, but it's all good. But I do have a question. So based on like everything you did in your past, how does that, like the word I'm looking for, how's it how did you get to where you are now and what you're doing, and what you're doing now, is it something you love?
I can start with the latter first. Yes, I absolutely love what I do for a living. I think the reason I love it so much is that I remembered what it was like when I didn't love what I do. I remember what it was like when I was working for other people's companies and not my own. And there was a rigidity to it that I hated. I think social work is so beautiful because you get to be creative and you get to critically think and you get to investigate. You get to access so many parts of your brain. And when you work for other people's companies, especially companies that are dependent on reimbursement through insurance companies or federal grants, there's a rigidity to that type of work. And there's a machinery in the way they want you to work. So you have to push out numbers and see lots of people and try to make things look really neat on paper when people's lives are messy. They're not neat. And you can't be in a box to help people whose lives are outside of a box. And it became really unsatisfying. And I experienced burnout a couple of times really early in my career and thought this was not the field for me. And I couldn't do this, long term. And that's when I started to look at doing private practice. So yeah, everything that I've done up to this point, including nursing, has helped me because I eventually started interfacing with nurses and doctors when I became a home care social worker. And that was beautiful because it still allowed me to use those clinical skills that I learned in nursing and to stay on top of some of the things that I was trained in. Because I was seeing people who had multiple medical conditions. But I've had a beautiful career doing lots of incredible things. And that's one of the great benefits of having gone into this industry is that it's so diverse. I've worked in school settings. I've worked as an independent contractor. I've been a caseworker. I've been in private practice now for these last 8 years, and I wouldn't go back. I think this has been the career for me, and I get to set my own hours, and I get to select my own clients, and I get to use social media to promote my work and to be on podcasts like this. And now I also get to, earn the kind of income that I want to earn as a therapist and as a coach and as a consultant. So yeah, this is absolutely the career for me. And I think this makes sense when I look back over the last 25 years of my career.
You mentioned burnout, and I'm very curious, when that was going on with you, how did it present? Like, what did it look like for you?
It was a felt experience. So I felt fatigued a lot. I had a lot of apathy for the work that I was doing. I was irritated by the whole structure, the capitalism that I worked under. I found myself dreading going to work. Those lived experiences you can feel in your body, like this pulling up of your weight to get out of the bed, to pull yourself out of your house, to have to walk to the subway and to talk to people. It felt very exhausting. No matter how much sleep I got or how much time, I could come into work later when I worked in a really awesome community clinic and we had incredible hours where I could go to work at 10 in the morning and get off at 6 in the evening. I could, walk home from work to my apartment. I could take the bus and, stroll to my office. And it was still this very tangible feeling of never getting enough sleep or rest. And it was exhausting. And I experienced that twice, pretty close together. And I didn't know that's what it was. I just thought I was extremely tired, but I did have an inkling that it had something to do with compassion. I felt like it had a lot to do with the correlation between how much I was pouring out and how little I was actually pouring back into myself. And, back then, no one talked about it. Back then being the 2010s, nobody used terms like self-care. People didn't talk about self-development books. And it was just, this is what you do. And if you want to be good at your job, you work really hard. The experiential work is where you learn a lot more than you do in the textbook theories and practice. But it was really tough mentally because people didn't talk to you about burnout because that wasn't a thing back then.
Right. How did you handle it? How did you get through that?
I would sleep a lot. I would come home from work. And again, I'm in my 20s at this time. And I would come home from work and I would sleep a lot. And I would lay on the couch a lot. And I was probably also feeling a little depressed and, eat crappy food. And I wasn't a person, I'm very driven by learning, which is a trauma response too, by the way. And I wouldn't spend a lot of time with my friends. My 20-something friends were traveling, they were hanging out, they were going to bars after work, they had meetup. I wasn't interested in that kind of thing. I would go on vacations alone. That was my thing. I used to travel in the summer and I would take advantage of my, PTO from time to time. But even that was a misfortune because my managers didn't even encourage it. No one ever said, oh, you look really tired. Maybe you should take a day off. No one ever brought it. I used to go to jobs where I would lose my vacation days because that's how much I worked. And they wouldn't roll over at the time that, I was working in this industry. And I would just keep working. And sometimes I actually consulted on the side. I was really driven by performance. And it was just something I had to work through until I started to discover through my own self-exploration reading what burnout was. And it was only after the second experience that I knew in hindsight, that's what I had gone through. So it was sometimes changing jobs. That was one of the things I've done. Sometimes it was going on vacations and realizing, oh, this feels different. This feels good to me. Maybe I need to do a little bit more of finding what I'm, fulfilling in other parts of my life. So then I started to speak to friends and see people and go out of town to visit my loved ones. And that broke up some of that monotony. Yeah. But I think initially for the first few years where I was burned out, it was just like being in a tunnel and not really understanding what's happening to me.
Yeah. What would you say to others that are out there that might be feeling those types of emotions, like words of advice or maybe best next steps for them?
I mean, thank goodness we have the internet and social media and all of these experts and lay people who have had these experiences that talk about it, because those lived experiences that are also shared experiences help people through it to know, oh yeah, I have those same feelings that you're experiencing. I do have dread. I do get the Sunday scaries. I do, love what I do, but feel really indifferent about doing it. It's not the work that I'm doing. I think talking about it, hearing these stories, being on podcasts like this is one of the best ways you can expose people to what their experiences are. And I would say take those days off that you need. One of the greatest gifts that I've been able to support my clients in through the past couple of years is helping people take leaves of absence from work. I know a lot of employers don't want that information spread, but that's one of the benefits of having had this experience myself. So I recognize it in other people, and I've had about 15 or 16 clients in the past 3 years that have taken leaves of absence for the first time in their careers after 10 plus years working and not taking a break from work, over excelling at their job, spending way too many hours thinking about the job. And that's been one of the biggest gifts to myself in return, that having gone through this, it's meaningful now because I can help other people to identify it. So take those days off, look into PTO, paid time off, look into leaves of absence if you can, short-term disability. Those things are invisible wounds that a lot of times people don't see. They don't see how your brain is ruminating about 100 million things that you did a day ago. They are not seeing you at home miserable, sitting on your couch, Netflixing and chilling. And they're not seeing, that you're using food to cope with the stress. So those kinds of ways of living through the experience, I think, is important for people to start sharing. I also want to encourage more clinical people, therapists, as well as physicians, to start asking more probing questions. Start asking people about, what is your life like outside of work? What do you do for fun? Who's at home with you to talk to about your day? Where do you go for respite? Start asking more probing questions, and people can then be nurtured into exploring some more deep level work for themselves to come to their own determination about what they need.
Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. Shopify is there to help you grow. Shopify helps you sell everywhere, from their all-in-one e-commerce platform to their in-person POS system. Shopify's got you covered. Shopify helps you turn browsers into buyers with the internet's best converting checkout, 36% better on average compared to other leading commerce platforms, and sell more with less effort thanks to Shopify Magic, your AI-powered all-star. What I love about Shopify is how no matter how big you want to grow, Shopify gives you everything you need to take control and take your business to the next level. Shopify powers 10% of all e-commerce in the U.S., and Shopify is the global force behind Allbirds, Rothy's, and Brooklinen, and millions of other entrepreneurs of every size across 175 countries. Plus, Shopify's award-winning help is there to support your success every step of the way. Because businesses that grow with Shopify. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/Westwood1, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/Westwood1 now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/Westwood1.
This is a PSA, or public sock announcement. Experts have declared Bombas socks as the best way to warm up chilly feet. These pairs are super cushy, soft, and designed for maximum coziness. Plus, for every pair purchased, another pair will be donated, so someone in need of essential clothing can stay warm this winter. Go to bombas.com/listen and use code LISTEN for 20% off your first purchase. That's BOMBAS.com/listen and use code LISTEN at checkout.
Every day, thousands of Comcast engineers and technologists like Leslie put people at the heart of everything they create.
With my team at Comcast, we developed the Xfinity voice remote and tested it to recognize different types of accents, inflections, and languages.
New movies.
Movies for kids.
Películas para las familias.
Now 40 million voice commands a day are heard by the Xfinity voice remote. Visit ComcastCorporation.com to learn more.
This topic couldn't come at a better time. I was literally just talking to G-Rex about this maybe yesterday. I don't remember. The days blend, but I was telling her, I'm like, I feel like some employers, yeah, right, they definitely don't encourage leave of absence, or it's like not talked about because they want you there doing the work. And it's so much so that at times you can't even find information from your employer on how to go about that. And you really got to dig. It ain't even in the handbook. You got to dig for what does that look like? Because like you said, it's something that not everybody can see. So it's not, like I've gotten into an accident. Physically, there's something on me that is obvious where I know I have to go to the doctor to get it looked at, right? But when it's mental health and it is burnout or depression and, work is oh so consuming and I need a break and you can't even find information from your employer on like, could I qualify for something like this?
Right.
So you have to really get out there and try to find that information.
You have to dig. And like, I use ChatGPT sometimes when I need to find information, right? Like I'll do a Google search and I am not happy with my results. So yes, I will go back out to ChatGPT because, it's a whole bunch of information, right? And it circles back to me in about 30 seconds and I can disseminate the important stuff, right? Not the fluff. But I feel bad for people that are in situations like that. I mean, I've been in a situation similar to that probably about 25 years ago, and I did end up taking leave, right? But it was so hard to like dig in and try and find that information. And for somebody who's my age, right? Because I'm in my early 60s, we've always been taught, shove that down as far as it can go. You're just going to put on a big happy face and you're just going to go to work and you're going to suck it up. Well, that's all well and good until you can't suck it up anymore, right? Thankfully for me, like when I had my breakdown, the number 988 was around. And I did pick up the phone. I called 988 and the lady on that end of the line saved my life that day. So freaking thankful to be alive today because I get to do this with my best friend and I get to learn. But I also want to pass really good information on to like our listeners, right? And having people like you, Asha, on the podcast help us like send that message out, right? That there is some hope, right? And like you said, like 10 years ago, nobody talked about this. Yeah. And now's the time because, there are toxic work environments. There are other things that happen on the outside that you don't really think affect you. But, like if you're having problems with your children or you need to take care of your parents or there's somebody in the household you need to take care of, that all weighs on you and you can't be your best self at work. There's just no way.
Yeah. One of the reasons I also believe it's difficult for people to find how they go about taking a leave from work is the language will not say leave of absence. It will not say take a medical leave from work. And so because I'm coming from a clinical perspective, I know what the language is. I know what I'm looking for. But someone who's in this, right, in this space of they're going through maybe their first phase of burnout or they're experiencing recurring burnout, they're not going to know what language to define what it is that one they're going through and or what available entitlements. And I like to present that word seriously to your audience because it's an entitled right for you to access benefits that if your company, maybe 50 or more employees your company has, and you are able to use a federal benefit like family medical leave concurrently with also short-term disability to take time away from work. That's the kind of information that honestly your human resources professional or your people lead can lead you to. So at least if you don't have the information readily available to you, you don't know the language to look for, speak to your people lead, speak to your team lead, speak to your HR representative and express to them that you are either having a difficult time managing your workload because it's too much work for one person. You are finding it hard to concentrate or to understand what the task is. And so even if you need some more direction and you've received that, but that's not sufficient because you're still producing mistakes, or you are finding it hard to quote unquote push through work every day. You know, the terms that we use in our everyday vernacular can also sometimes guide your manager to know what it is that you're asking about without saying it directly. That person is responsible for directing you to the person who's responsible to express and explain what your entitled rights are. And so that would be taking a short-term disability leave from work, so that one, you can protect your job if you also take FMLA at the same time, the Federal Family and Medical Leave, while you also take care of your mental health. And so a short-term disability can look like anywhere from a month of time away from work to 6 months of leave from work, paid leave if your job also has disability coverage for you as an employee. The amount of income that you receive on that leave may range from 100% of your salary to somewhere like 40% over the course of those 4 to 6 months, depending on, 24 weeks of leave, maybe short-term disability in your company, or at max 26 weeks of leave, but it's under short-term disability. So because it's a medical condition by which a doctor has to prescribe this leave for you, or your psychotherapist can prescribe this leave for you, it is classified as a medical leave. And so you can research this through looking up short-term disability. You can discuss this with your human resources professional, and then they would basically just ask that you speak to your practitioner, be it your physician or your psychotherapist, as to what they would recommend for the amount of time initially they would prescribe you to be away from your job. And so that time should be uninterrupted. No one from work, your colleagues, your boss, no one should reach out to you. You should use that time to rest, go to your appointments, take care of your medical and mental health. And usually I advise my clients to really sit in not doing anything, like really allow your body to recover from the years of work, the mental labor, the physical, emotional labor you put into your job, your life, etc. Like, people do not know how tired they are until they stop working. And I've had people who said, "Oh, Asha, I don't think I'll need more than a month from work, more than a month of leave from work." Okay, let's see about that, right? And then that first 3 weeks are like, "Oh my God, I just want to sleep all day." And I'm like, yeah. And this is why I generally start with my clients at least 6 weeks of time away from work. If you can maintain financially, depending on what your job offers in terms of your disability coverage, 6 weeks away from work, then minimally, I would say that's a good start. But I've taken more people on leaves of absence from work for at least 3 to 4 months and max a year.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think this is why we were talking about it, Drex, because I'm like, I feel like I can't imagine, first of all, if you are feeling burnout symptoms or depression, or you're dealing with something that is kind of hidden that, like we were saying, it's not, like a physical thing that people can see. And then trying to navigate through some of this language that you may not be familiar with. It's difficult because it's like you want to go to like a psychotherapist and you're new to it. So you don't know exactly, like, do I need to ask straight up, like, hey, I need to be put on leave, or do they just know? Or, it's like this very hard thing. And then on top of it all, we were talking about after that leave is done and you're returning back to work. I think in that moment when you're feeling depressed and burned out, like, you're probably going to be worried to have to go back if it's a toxic environment, right? So I just really sympathize and I feel for that type of experience, because it's not easy. And it's not talked about enough.
Yeah, and it's really hard. Like when I did it, so like 20 plus years ago, like for me, it was hard for me to even explain to my manager at the time what was going on, right? because it was already toxic as it was. And having to have that really difficult conversation, I was young, okay? Like nobody taught me how to have these conversations. Nobody. And I finally just said, I've got to go. And I went and I did my leave. And like you said, I slept for like a week straight. It was amazing. But then I would wake up and I was like, fuck, I got to go back to this job. And I don't want to go. I really don't. So I did during the time, I did look at other opportunities outside of what I was doing at the time and try to define what my next career path was going to be, because I really didn't want to go back. I knew that it was not going to be healthy. It wasn't going to be healthy for me because, I'm 4'11". There's only so much shit I can take into my life before it gets horrible. So for me, I ended up finding another job. I went back to work for a week and then I gave my notice and I was like, deuces, gotta go. And, thankfully for me, I had my family to support me in that decision. But for other people, they don't have those support systems and it makes it really difficult. So this is such an important topic these days because work environments are toxic.
Yeah.
Can I just say something about that?
Yeah.
I'm really grateful that we're talking about this because there's a lot of hope. And I've worked with clients who felt very hopeless. And like you, She-Rex, people that I've worked with in the beginning were all people who didn't want to go back to the same job. So one of the things that I do, because I'm an integrative psychotherapist, so that basically means that I work with the whole person and I often work comprehensively. So I work with other disciplines. Even as a private practitioner, that's just the way that I was also trained earlier in my career as a social worker. So I usually work with people's primary care physicians, their psychiatrists, if we refer them to psychiatry. I usually recommend dietitians. And so I'll work with a dietitian. And every person that I can think of, and we've done some radical things, have not gone back to the same job. One person that I worked with in the beginning, they went back, they took a month off initially, and then we added, I think, another month, and then they were ready to go back. And we went back with a plan. So everyone who works with me, whether they're getting coached outside of New York or they're in New York and they're working with me as a client in my psychotherapy practice, I strategize with them. That's one of my strengths. And so we work on what the strategy is. The strategy could be that for the first month or two, you're resting, you're sleeping, you're getting sunlight, you're moving your body, you're eating better. You're taking your medicine. If you're on medicine, you're coming to therapy 1 or 2 times a week. And so those are the first couple of months plan. And then once that feels like it's become habitual, month 3, if we're taking, let's say 4 months or more from leave, from work, then month 3 is to start looking at how we can integrate other things like the nutrition piece. And then maybe around month 4, it is, okay, let's start exploring what the plan is for return to work. And so I have to, on my end, do an enormous amount of paperwork because these insurance companies want a lot of detail. And I even am the mouthpiece for some of my clients because these insurance companies also kind of harass the clients about, why are you off and are you going to your appointments? And they'll start calling them weekly. So I get my clients to sign a release form to redirect the people from the insurance companies to contact me. I don't mind taking that on because I really want my clients to rest. So they'll do that. And then the insurance companies don't harass them. And so we'll work on a plan of action. For some people, it is go back to work for a limited amount of time. And you're going to strategize, you're going to collect a couple of paychecks, and then you're going to either put that money into a portal and we're going to make that money work for you over the next couple of weeks while you take, maybe another leave of absence, which sometimes people do, or you're going to pivot. Most people have done this without the support of friends or loved ones because most of them are the first people to do it in their circle. Yeah. And I've had lots of people who've taken the entire short-term disability, which is the 4 to 6 months, and rest and sleep and go to appointments and see their doctors for the first time in a long time. And some of them go back to work and they're released from the company, or they go back to work and they leave the company. Other people have taken longer disability, and it converts to long-term disability after 6 months because they have workplace trauma that's compounded with childhood trauma. And so they have chronic medical conditions on top of mental health conditions that actually impairs them from working. And so we just spent a year working on their physical health, their mental health, getting their strength back, seeing a lot of specialists, and getting the disability income through Social Security and using that to support them. Other people have completely pivoted careers. I've had people go from one industry to a completely different one over the course of several months' time, just by on that leave, getting rest and sleep and having clarity to even consider what else they could do. Some people have gone into becoming consultants. I have a few people who've done that, left their jobs, left their industries after 10, 18 years, et cetera, and become independent contractors and have a fulfilling life. They travel more, they work less, they spend more time with their loved ones. And so lots of incredibly good, wonderful, radical things. People have gotten married, they've moved across the world, they've become digital nomads. I mean, that's the social worker I always was. And to be that person now as a private practitioner gives me a lot of joy. And so people start off really scared and hopeless, and they end up hopeful and excited about their life and amazed at what has transformed them.
I love that. I love that. Would you say that's your, like, the most rewarding part about what you get to do every day?
Yeah, seeing people change on their own terms and live a kind of life that they want and desire and imagine and are in charge of gives me great pleasure. It's the best thing about the work that I do, both as a coach and a therapist.
I love this conversation. I do. So I do have a question for you. What do you do today for self-love and self-care?
I spend time with a select number of people. And I say that very intentionally because I used to give my time away to people, and I don't anymore. I'm very intentional about, with the exception of last night. I did not know where I was going to end up last night, but we had a good time. It was around some good people. I usually am very selective about where I spend my time and with whom. And that's been an interesting evolution too, because I noticed the more I withdraw from people, the more people seem to be hungry for my attention. Right?
It's funny how that
So
works.
I just really try to, cultivate a life that's nourishing. I have a home that faces the east, so I get a lot of natural sunlight. So I come into my living room every morning and I raise the blinds and I get a lot of sun, and that makes me really happy. I just bought a bike that I love, so I'll go out and I'll ride my bike for 3 hours and explore the community and, see things and look at the architecture of the buildings and just feel really free and just wonderful. When I can, I'll try to travel the world and even sometimes work, outside of the country, just so I can enjoy both, this thing that I created where I always wanted to be able to be a remote worker before it was a thing. I really pay attention to how my body metabolizes food, because usually my stress goes to my gut. And so I'm really careful about the food that I select to eat. I've become even more restrictive because I have a functional nutritionist now who has bridged the connection between histamine issues that I have that are related to like allergies year round and the changes in the environment, which are also impacting the foods that I eat. So that's been really wonderful to have an accountability partner that helps me to take care of myself better. And those are the things that nourish me. Not working every day is another part. I don't work every day. This work is great, but I also need time away from it to live in my life and to be a person. So those are the things that help.
I love all that. Love. Skittles, do you have your crazy questions?
Sure. Okay. If you could go back in time to a younger version of yourself and give yourself a bit of advice, what would you say, and how old are you when you go back?
I would go back to probably 24, maybe 25. I'm in grad school. I'm working full time. I'm traveling between what we call here in New York boroughs. So it's like going almost like from one city to another city to leave my job to go to my internship. And I would say pace yourself. I would say pace yourself more and have more fun. And that would probably back then be hard for me to imagine up because I was so hyper focused on performance. But I would definitely say pace yourself and create more time for fun.
And it might be the same thing, but what has been the hardest lesson you've had to learn so far in your life?
That everyone has a different definition of love, and it doesn't necessarily agree with mine. And mine trumps all of those, and mine is more important. And I can teach people how to love me, but if they don't reciprocate, I can also let those people go. And I will.
That is so good. All right. I have one more question. Actually, it's a two-parter. What is your favorite word?
My favorite word?
Your favorite word.
Pace.
Okay. What is your least favorite word?
Push.
I like that. I love all of this. So where can our listeners find you?
Well, as you mentioned, definitely on LinkedIn. I have an awesome new newsletter titled Adulting Today, which is on the whole brand of my adulting work that I've been doing for years. I would absolutely encourage people to subscribe to it. I'm going to go into details about taking leaves of absence from work, imposter syndrome, how to have difficult conversations at work. I'll talk about caregiving as an employee. So definitely Adulting Today's newsletter is the place to go for your monthly updates. Follow me on Instagram. I'm very active there talking about caregiving matters and mental health and prevention. I use Instagram. My account is Asha Tarry with an A, Tary, Asha Tarry Mental on Instagram. That's where a lot of people find me. And my website, lifecoachasha.com, where you can get more information about either working with me as a coach. Right now, I think I'm at capacity for my psychotherapy practice, but people who are outside of New York can work with me as a coach, and I do mental fitness coaching. And those would be the main places that people can find me.
Yay. Thank you so much for your time today. This conversation was just perfect.
It was perfect. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. Hi, all. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. I'm G-Rex.
And I'm Dirty Skittles.
Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. We'd love to listen to your feedback.
We can't do this without you guys.
It's okay to be not okay. Just make sure you're talking to someone.
This is a mini meditation guided by Bombas. Repeat after me. I'm comfy. I'm cozy. I have 0 blisters on my toes. And that's because I wear Bombas, the softest socks, underwear, and t-shirts that give back. 1 purchased equals 1 donated. Now go to bombas.com/listen and use code LISTEN for 20% off your first purchase. That's bombas.com/listen and use code LISTEN at checkout.
Would you buy bananas at a laundromat? How about a haircut at a hardware store? Probably not. So why would you trust your GLP-1 weight loss journey to anyone but Whole Health RX by The Vitamin Shoppe? Backed by 40 years of wellness expertise, Whole Health RX is where modern weight loss meets whole body health. coupled with nutritional support, education, and a medical advisory council. If you're one of 30 million Americans who may be on GLP-1s by 2030, it's time to get informed. Visit www.vitaminshop.com/GLP1 to see if you qualify for breakthrough meds like Ozempic, Mounjaro, Zepbound, Wegovy, or compound versions. Starting as low as $199. Embrace real results with GLP-1 medications prescribed by experienced healthcare providers, including new orally dissolving semaglutide and tirzepatide tablets for all the weight loss with none of the needles. Learn more about Whole Health RX, including full safety information about increased risk for thyroid C-cell tumors at www.vitaminshop.com/GLP1.
Every day, thousands of Comcast engineers and technologists like Kunle put people at the heart of everything they create.
The way that I approach work post-fatherhood has really been trying to understand the generation that we're building devices for. Here at the Comcast family, we're building an integrated in-home Wi-Fi solution for millions of families like my own.
Now millions of families can work, learn, and play together under one roof. Visit ComcastCorporation.com to learn more.
HBCUs, they're more than just schools, right? They're where we learn, grow, and build. It's a place where we're free to be ourselves, innovate, and live our best lives while chasing those dreams, and yes, securing that bag. But the journey to success is not always easy. That's why Walmart is here for you every step of the way. From late night study sessions to game day celebration, Walmart's got your back, helping you manifest those big, audacious dreams. Whether you're starting a business, climbing the career ladder, or figuring it all out, Walmart is here supporting Black excellence at HBCUs. At the end of the day, your hustle, your creativity, and your journey matter. Walmart, we're all about empowering you with the spark to keep pushing forward. So let's get to it together. Learn more about how we are amplifying your story at walmart.com/Black and Unlimited. It's your journey, and we're proud to be a part of it.
Sweetheart, what about this one?
Nah, fam. That's a little sus.
Shopping with teenagers can be hard, between figuring out what they like and what they mean. But with Walmart, at least shopping for their next pair of glasses is easy. With the Walmart app, you can virtually try on frames at home, upload prescriptions, and get new glasses delivered right to your door. It's an easier way to get stylish glasses they'll actually like.
Now these new glasses, total vibes.
Buying new glasses has a new look. Welcome to your Walmart. Valid prescription required.